Welcome to Open Can. This is a show where we try to make sense of the world. So I've been trying to unify the history of the earth in a way that actually makes sense. See, when you were born and you start learning as the years go by, you start thinking, well, it seems like they already figured it out in this world. They invented everything. There's a lot of neat things that you like, and it's like, wow, that is so cool. However, it gets to a time where you understand that not everything has been invented and everything hasn't been learned yet. And there's still more things to learn. And that's when your curiosity kicks in and you start thinking, wow, maybe I can figure things out because they don't know everything. A lot of the stuff is just speculation, or they think they know it, but there's no way they can actually go back in time and see how things were done. So you know they have to have it wrong in some cases, especially when you know it's not making any sense. And sometimes they tell you things and it's like, yeah, that can't be that way. It has to be a different way. It doesn't make any sense. And myself, I like to put things in a perspective. It has to make sense. If it doesn't make sense, it does not fit. And that's when I start crunching things down until it actually makes sense to me. So I started to look at some of the things that actually don't make sense and they haven't figured them out yet. So the first thing we're going to try out is the pyramids to see if they actually got the history correct. And they got them on books and all that, but as scholars been taking measurements and checking them out, it seems like they were built with such a high accuracy that the Egyptians did not have the capability to create them with the tools they had available at the time. So who built them is very important, but I think it's more important now the purpose why they actually built them. So let's try to figure that out. And of course they say they're tombs for pharaohs, but it doesn't seem right because they haven't found any pharaohs inside of any pyramids at the time to this date. All the pharaohs were found in valleys and around the area, but not inside of the pyramids. So what they tell us about the pyramid doesn't make sense. So I came up with a theory that actually makes a little bit more sense to me. And it goes like this. What if the pyramids are a really high technology device that we haven't figured out yet? For example, what if they were made to flood the planet? In history, we have that there was a flood, which is Noah's flood in the Bible. First, it seems like the Sphinx is showing some erosion of water, lots of water in Egypt, which they say it hasn't happened in a long, long time. So to flood the earth, you need lots and lots of water. So where did the water go? Did most of it froze in the North and South Pole? Or something else happened? Well, we have a few clues that tells us that something else happened. For example, they have found cities under the ocean, deep in the ocean, at a depth of 2,000 to 2,500 feet. That's pretty deep in the ocean. So that becomes a problem because how are you going to build huge pyramids at that depth? And we still have the North and South Pole that are still froze. So what if the rain from Noah in Noah's Ark created the ocean and the earth was much, much drier back then? What if there was no ocean and the ocean is what caused the flood? And that's why all those cities are under the ocean at that depth. Is there any clue in the Bible that there was no ocean? Well, maybe. One of the clues could be the rainbow. There was no rainbow before Noah's flood. To get a rainbow, you need a precipitation. You need rain. There was no rain back then either. Otherwise, you will get a rainbow. No clouds in the sky. So where did the rain come from then? Enough to flood the entire earth. That's where the technology of the pyramids come in. So if there was no ocean, how do you get the moisture to flood the earth? Well, the weather as we know it here, it requires when a cold front hits a warm front. In the middle, you're going to get the moisture, the precipitation, enough to rain. So that's what we found out here on Earth. Now, in order for the planet to get the water, you will have to do the same exact thing, but you have to do it in space. Well, scientists say that the planet Earth is in a Goldilocks zone, which is not too hot and not too cold in the solar system. So what if there is an area in space, somewhere between Mars and Earth, that is a precipitation area? It's an area where moisture exists, that is not too hot and it's not too cold, but there's a lot of moisture there, and we just happen to cross that area. What do you think it can happen? Well, one of the things that can happen is water starts coming from space. The Earth will accumulate the water very fast, very rapidly as it's crossing through that zone, and the planet will flood. Yes, that is right. You will have to move the planet. So what if these pyramids were built to actually relocate the Earth? What if Earth was in an area where it's much colder, somewhere like where Mars is? And they're saying also that Mars was much warmer and it had water, and all of a sudden it's gone. So what if Mars and Earth actually swap places? Now, a large object, such as a planet, could just be crossing our solar system and relocate planets very easily. However, any lost planet that is heavy enough to relocate planet will create chaos coming in through a solar system, to the point where planets will start crashing, going into the sun and things like that. It is completely out of order. In order for you to do it correctly, you have to move it very precisely, which it seems like it's what happened. God told Noah that he will send clouds in the sky and he will flood the earth with water. It will come down as rain, and it will create a rainbow, which is a promise that he will never flood the earth again. So it seems like the ocean is what actually rained, not fresh water, but ocean water came down from the heavens. So can there really be a moisture area somewhere between Mars and Earth in our solar system? Do we actually have any clue that that can actually happen? Well, I was looking at some of the comets when they come in. As they get closer to the sun, you see a tail that comes out. First, they did not have a tail, and all of a sudden, as they get closer, they have a tail. That means they reach an area where it's warmer, and all of a sudden, it starts melting the ice in it, so you get to see the tail. And of course, they say it's not just water, but it could be also like particles that are coming off of it. It makes more sense if it's actually water that's coming out of it. So as it comes in, the ice starts melting, and then you see a tail. And because they have no gravity or very little gravity, it doesn't hold the water, so it actually escapes. So as the comet comes around, it loops around the sun and it goes right back out. It actually collects the water again as it moves out, and you still see the tail, and all of a sudden you stop seeing the tail because it's already cold enough to the point that it just froze up. So what if that's how Earth got its water? It went by that moisture band. It collected all the water from the moisture band, enough to flood the earth, and all of a sudden it comes out on the other side, and then it stops raining. And most likely it was salt water that came from space, because we have not experienced water from space. We only experience water from the clouds, which is already moisture that went up from here, from the earth up, and then it creates the clouds, which makes it rain. So that's clear, fresh water that comes down. But water from space could have been salt water, which created the flood, and it possibly created our oceans. It seems like this only happened once, according to the Bible. So Noah might have experienced the salt water coming down. Also, Noah lived to 950 years. How can that be possible? Well, if the earth is smaller, it spins faster. When it spins faster, the night and day go faster. Just like an ice skater. As they have their arms out, they go slower, but when they pull their arms in, they go faster. So maybe that's what happened. As the earth flooded, it got bigger, and all of a sudden, it started moving slower. So day and night went slower. So if Noah would be living in our age now, he would only probably live 100 years. But back then, it was 900 years because the earth was spinning faster. When you have to count day and night as one day, you have to count more years. However, there is one more factor, that the earth is moving around the sun, counting the year. The only thing I can say on that is, our sun has a gravitational disk. It's like a vinyl record. It is a flat disk, and it looks a lot like the ring on Saturn, where you see all the little asteroids around the ring of Saturn. But that's in a smaller section. We're talking about the sun and the planets, all the planets, including Earth and Saturn. And that disk actually moves. It moves at the same speed as the sun is rotating. At the same time, that ring is actually trying to push all the planets. But depending on the weight of the planet, it will spin slower because there's more resistance if there's a bigger planet. And if it's a smaller planet, it's going to spin it faster, closer to the speed of the ring. This gravitational ring is what actually keeps all the planets in check. And it keeps them in the flat disk area. And that's why the planets are all aligned, seems like it. The gravitational disk is also what's keeping the asteroid belt in check. It's keeping it in a swirly matter to the point that if you were to fill this gravitational disk with asteroid, our solar system will look like a mini galaxy with a swirling effect. So how can we move the planet with the pyramids? Okay, there is a physicist that actually came up with a new theory that there's actually a black hole inside of the earth. And to me, that seems more accurate than saying that there is an iron core inside of the earth, due to the fact that the earth spins and has been spinning forever. So what kind of engine do you need to spin a planet at a very constant speed that will never stop? Most likely you're going to need a little black hole. See, my concept on black holes was that if you get near a black hole, it will swallow you whole and you disappear forever. However, is that really true? Because we have to think a black hole basically spins near the speed of light. So that means nothing can approach it. You will start falling towards it until you reach a specific point called the event horizon, which is the edge of the black hole. That's where it's actually spinning the fastest. From that point on, everything gets sheared and burnt, creating what we have as magma. And most likely it is what is creating our gravity. And that is why everything gets pulled down towards the center of the earth from any point in the world that you're at. So if you know that knowledge, one thing you can do is you can create a very highly tech device such as a pyramid, control the gravitational field that the earth has, beam it out into space, and you start pulling the earth towards that artificial black hole that you just created. And then you ask me, well, how is the pyramid going to do that? Well, guess, just a quick guess. Where did the Ark of the Covenant came from? It came from Egypt. Moses had it. He moved it out of Egypt. It came most likely out of the pyramid. Moses had the knowledge of this high-tech device. They were using it in Egypt to control the people. And when he took it with him, Pharaoh found out. So he went after Moses to get his ark back. That's how he was able to open the Red Sea and had the Israelites cross the Red Sea into the promised land of milk and honey. And of course, he was instructed by God that knew everything about this. He told Moses how to achieve the task at hand. So you have a solid piece of device as a pyramid. You take the ark, you put it in there, and you beam out a gravitational pull that will pull the earth into where you want it, when you want it, and you can stop it exactly where you want it. So that's how you move a planet. You cross through this moisture barrier, collect the condensation that can create the flood, end up on the other side of it, a little closer to the sun, not as far. It will take you 40 days and 40 nights for that to happen. All of a sudden, the skies open up. Water starts pouring down from the sky, from the heavens. Most likely that's salt water that we have today in the ocean, flooding the entire earth. And from that point on, now you get the moisture that creates the cloud, that creates our rain. And guess what? Now you have the rainbow that's going to show up from that point on, which is the promise that God gave us, that he will never flood the earth again or move the planet again. And of course, you're going to need more than just one pyramid. You're going to need pyramids all over the world in order for you to control the location that you want it in and to be able to stop it from going in a direction without being in control. And maybe this is why all these ancient sites are all aligned to the stars, so you can actually align it just like you want it. And maybe this will answer some of the theories that they have found dinosaur bones of the same species all over the world. Well, the only way that can be possible is if there is no ocean, they can actually just walk the earth until, they like the area. And it also seems like the earth was much, much smaller, because it seems like after the flood, it seems like all the continent just swelled up and separated in a very controlled fashion that looks more like a jigsaw puzzle. So it seems like the black hole actually created more matter from the inside of the earth out, making all the land come back out and making the earth a lot bigger, slowing it down and making the days and the years go a little slower for Noah. So this is my theory about the flood, the pyramid, and planet Earth. Now, I can tell you right now, I don't have all the answers, but I can tell you one thing. If for some reason any of this theory is correct, we're going to find our own answers to the questions, because everything will start fitting in like a jigsaw puzzle. So thank you for listening. I hope you stay tuned, and maybe we'll have another theory in the future. Thank you. Bye.